One of the best pieces of advice for all online teachers, but brand new ones especially, is to diversify your income, meaning don't just work for one company. But one of the biggest questions can be, how exactly do I do that? So stick around, let's get to it. Hey there, I'm Allyson from onlineteacherallyson.com, and I teach stay-at-home parents how to teach online so that they can earn an income from home. All right, everyone, let's get to this. First things first, forgot I was touching peppers earlier and touched my eye. It's still a little angry. Don't mind it. So, anyways, I got this comment from Carrie last week saying, if you are working for more than one platform or company, how do you prioritize and schedule yourself amongst the multiple platforms and companies? And part B was kind of, how do you schedule yourself in general? Great question, Carrie, because I say all the time, diversify your income, apply to more than one place, but I don't tell you how to do it. So let's go. The first thing I would do is open all of the same slots. So for example, if I have these slots open on VIP Kid, this is what I'm teaching right now. I'm on the Central Time Zone. I would also open the same exact slots on Cambly, because I'm also on Cambly. Now, there are some caveats here. So before you go all slot happy, hold on tight. So one of the caveats that can happen here is you get double booked with the same company. So my 8 o'clock on VIP Kid got booked at Cambly as well. So then what do? That's a pretty big pickle. Well, VIP Kid, I know, penalizes me for canceling classes no matter how far in advance I do it. So I'm not going to cancel with VIP Kid. Cambly, there is some leeway. So I'm actually going to cancel with Cambly, especially if it's not like short notice and there's a penalization there. So every platform will be different on their penalizations and what happens to you for canceling classes. So like I said, I know VIP Kid very well because I'm still active with them. They penalize you whether the class is in 2 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, or 2 weeks away. So I try my darndest not to cancel with VIP Kid. Where at Cambly, now it's been a while since I've taught with them, so I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I am, but I'm pretty sure if it's far enough in advance, they don't penalize you. So anyways, as you are diversifying yourself and you're deciding where you want to teach, you want to pick companies that are kind of a mix of the two. One that will penalize you and one that gives you more freedom. And if both of them penalize you, but like say for example, this is a hypothetical. Don't quote me on this as it's being true because it's not. If VIP Kid, we're going to keep them the same. They penalize me no matter what. But Cambly, hypothetically, will only penalize me 24 hours out. I'm going to shut down that 24 hours with Cambly, and I'm going to keep the 24 hours open with VIP Kid. So once I start getting that overlap, I'm going to pick a platform to shut down on. Now, I prefer VIP Kid over Cambly, so I will always favor VIP Kid. But if you're the opposite, then pick your favorite. It really comes down to knowing, I can't think of the word, but like the procedures and the expectations of you as a teacher and how you can get negatively affected. That's option one, is to just open all of the same. And I would keep your notifications on for everything across both platforms so that as soon as one books, if my 8 o'clock books on VIP Kid and my notification pops up, I'm going to sign right into Cambly and turn that off so I don't get into any overlap. The only overlap that could happen is overnight because that is when most of them are booking. I hope that made sense. All right, the second option is to pick platforms that have different peak hours. So for example, VIP Kid has peak times in Beijing. So for me, living in the Central Time Zone, that's early in the morning. Now, if I wanted to not deal with that whole like logistical mess, I could also apply to a different company that has different peak hours. So if I'm teaching early in the morning, I might want to pick a platform that has afternoon time peak hours or evening time peak hours, and what I would pick would depend on my family and when I have help and my son's otherwise entertained. So that would be another option. So it comes down to picking what's best for you and for your family, and I can't tell you what's best because I don't know what your schedule looks like. So that's kind of how I would juggle the two, is I would either open them all the same. That's honestly what I've done. And close them out as they come in, or I would just work on two completely different platforms that cater to two completely different countries and time zones, so there is no overlap there at all. Otherwise, pick the ones that are super lenient with cancellations. I do have in my best ESL and my best non-ESL platforms, I do talk about their penalizations and how lenient they are. So if you give that video a watch, that'll give you kind of an idea of what platform's a good one. And if you head over to onlineteacherallyson.com/platform and grab my free download, that'll help match you to a platform. That'll help give you a place to start too. And you can kind of start doing your own research, and you can cross-reference it with the additional information I give in those ESL and non-ESL videos. All right. So that would be my best advice. It does get a little logistically messy, but as you get used to it and as you start picking up bookings, especially if you're overlapping with VIP Kid and like Cambly, like where they're the same time zone, as you start getting bookings and picking up steam on one, you can start kind of fading out the other. All right, so part B of Carrie's question was, how do I even schedule myself in general? So great question. This has evolved as I have as an online teacher and as my son has grown. So I initially started when he was just turning a year old, and I started with VIP Kid. And so for me, it worked really well working from like 4 to 8, 5 to 8, because he was asleep. And I just woke up really early in the morning. I got it done. And then usually he was waking up about 8, 8:30. So as soon as I was done, we would start our day. And I'd be done working. I never had to think about it again. Now, I was beat down, exhausted. And I was always looking forward to nap time so I could kind of rejuvenate myself. But that worked for us. I was also not very good about going to bed on time. So you would be better about that than I would, ideally. So now, though, it has changed, like I said. So I'm still doing ESL in the summertime because I now work for a company. Now, I don't recommend this for you because they require like a teaching degree and teaching experience, both online and the classroom. And so I definitely don't recommend this for you. But this company, they push into the classrooms. And so during the school year, I'm doing math small groups with them in their classroom. You can see their teacher walking around. Other kids are doing the same thing. And so I do that on the days my son is at school. So he goes a couple days a week to like a Mother's Day Out program. I heavily load those days while he's at school. And then there's a couple classes here and there I sprinkled in either during nap time or in the afternoon once my husband was awake and ready to watch our son. Now, I did not like working late. I did not like missing that family time last year. So I'm not going to open after 3 p.m. for me personally. But again, if that's what works for you, that's what works. So for me, my husband works nights. So our window of time together is very small, and 3 to 4 p.m. was part of it. And I just don't want to give that up next year. But for you, your person is probably on a better schedule. And so missing 3 to 4 is probably not as big of a deal. But for me, it was our time to spend together before we had to get going in the kitchen. So for you, I would recommend just looking into your schedule and deciding where you have freedom from your kids. Either they're sleeping or someone else can watch them consistently so that you can do it. So one thing I do recommend if you don't have a person to help you is maybe hiring a babysitter for a couple hours a week, especially now that it's summer. There's a bunch of kids who just graduated college. There's a bunch of kids who just graduated high school who are looking for something to do. And it's a great way to get started. Otherwise, do it at night. So that's when I did it and when it worked for me, because my son was usually asleep. And if there was a problem, either I could get my husband, depending on when or where it was, or a couple times I just kind of ran over in between classes because VIP Kid gave you a 5-minute cushion. Not all of them do. VIP Kid gave me 5 minutes in between classes so I could kind of do what I needed to do there. So this is actually something I plan on diving into in a free training I am creating to help you kind of figure out how to make online teaching work in your schedule. And you can get on the wait list for that so that you're notified when it's ready to go at onlineteacherallyson.com/challenge. This is so hard to give a concrete black and white answer to anybody because your schedule doesn't look anything like mine. Your kids don't look anything like mine. And your kid's schedule and your schedule, nothing looks the same. So my best piece of advice is pick a couple platforms and research them and decide if you either want to open the same slots or if you want to pick a platform that opens two completely different slots. Now, that requires more time available during the day. So I understand if that's not as feasible. But if you are picking option A, where you open the same slots across multiple platforms, make sure you at least have a more lenient platform with cancelizations. VIP Kid was not my lenient platform, so that is not where I canceled if I could help it. And then scheduling yourself, I just encourage you to look at where you have time away from your kid that you're kind of willing to give up. I'm not saying that if it's your one time to get out, your 1 hour to get out of the house and don't book that. I want you to pick a different time, either when they're asleep or when you have help or they're at school or some other time where you have consistency available, because consistency is another big piece of information, and that is to open slots consistently for months in advance so families can see that you are reliable and that you are in it. So I hope that helped. I'm sorry it wasn't more concrete, but just look at those two things, where you want to teach and then which ones, and your schedule. And if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or email me, onlineteacherallison@gmail.com. Thanks again for the question, Carrie. Thanks so much for being here, and we will chat soon. Bye.